Hey darlings, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for being here. If you're new to my channel, you're very welcome. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you get to watch it. So today I'll be sharing with you guys how I made this basic corset. I'll first of all share with you how I made the pattern, and then I'll be showing you also how to stitch it. So make sure you watch to the end. Right here on the screen are the measurements required for this project. And as you can see how I placed my tape from 6 inches, 9 inches is the armpit line, okay, 10 inches is the nipple line. If you're a plus size, please mark at 11 inches. Then for the under bust line, I marked at 13 inches. You use the bust measurement, the bust circumference to determine the under bust line as well. Then the waistline is 17 inches. If you're a plus size, you may be hitting about 18 inches. Then the full length, you determine this by your desired fitting. So here is the side length. You can make yours the same measurement with the length, but I want a curve at the size. That's why I'm marking mine at 21 inches. So right here, we're going to start off with inserting our nipple to nipple measurement, which I'm marking at 4 inches right here. This is for a medium size measurement. If you're a plus size, consider marking it at 5 inches, and this also includes the measurement for stitching it. So I'm going to mark this at 4 inches and mark the other lines at 4 inches each. So right here I've marked in the 4 inches on each of these indication lines. Then I'm going to go over to marking the dart line. At the under bust line, you're going to place your tape across the dart line and measure 1 inch across each other and mark. Also do the same on the waistline. After marking in the dart measurement, you're going to connect it like this. Then to mark the upper bust area, whatever you marked for this bust nipple line distance, you're going to add 1 inch to it and mark it right here. So after I've marked my 5 inches there, I'm going to place my tape across that mark, and I'm going to mark 1 inch on each side of this dart line. After marking it, you're going to smoothly connect it from this upper bust area down to this dart line. As you can see right here, I've done that already, and it should look something like this, okay? Then you will smoothly connect this line, not with a straight line, but I'll show you how to connect it smoothly to look like an actual underbust of a bra. So as you can see now, I've marked it in already, and it's looking like this. This is to avoid sharp point at the bust point area. So we'll go over to the next level. Now to mark in your bust line measurement, as you can see at this dart area here, ½ inch will be lost when marking in like that. So we are going to add it back to our measurement. So assuming your measurement is 9 inches, that is your circumference of your bust divided by 4 is 9 inches. So you're going to add ½ inch to it. Then next you're going to add 1 inch to this measurement for stitching the princess dart together later. Then for the waistline, you are going to measure your waistline plus 2 inches that is being cut in between this dart line, and then you're going to add it back. Assuming it's 7.5, you just know that it's going to be 9.5. Then you're going to add additional 1 inch for stitching in the princess seam later. So that is where you're going to mark it. Then for this pattern, I'm going to mark the same thing on the waistline of this corset. Then on this area, you are going to minus 1 from your hip measurement, and then you're going to mark it there. Taking note that at this area, you're losing about 3/4 of an inch here. So you're going to add it back to your measurement like this. Then you're going to add additional 1 inch for stitching it together after cutting. So once you have marked this, the next thing you are going to do now is to connect these lines together, and we'll go over to the next level. After connecting the side seam, you are going to connect the bottom part of your corset. Note that at this moment you have the privilege to do any shape you want at the bottom part of your corset to create the effect you want it to look like. So you have the liberty to do so here to create your own styling along this line. So I'm just going to connect mine and we'll move over to the next level. Next, we are going to connect the upper bust dart to the armpit line right there. After doing that, the next thing for you to do now is to connect your dart measurement to your armpit line. If you have enjoyed this video so far, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Then from here to this point, mark 1.5 inch right here. The next thing you have to do right now is to mark at this area 2.5 inches from the side seam. After you must have marked this, the next thing you're going to do is to connect both lines together. At this point right there, you're going to be marking in 1 inch right there. After making these indication marks, you're going to connect it from the underbust right here up to the armpit level where you marked your 1.5 inch earlier on, like this. After marking in this area, you're going to measure down 2 inches right here for the depth of the neckline. You can measure down more than this if you want it to be deeper. Okay, so I measured 2 inches and I'm going to measure 1/2 inch in down towards the underbust line. As you can see, I've done that already, and from here you're going to mark in 1 inch right here. After marking this in, the next thing for you to do now is to connect it from your underbust to this nipple to nipple line. So now that you have successfully done this, the next thing for you to do now is to determine the curve of this area. You can decide to make it a sweetheart neckline or a deep V or a U-neck. Anyone you choose, you can make yours to be. So I'm going to create mine here and I'll show you in a while. So when you get to this extent, you have successfully created for yourself a corset pattern. As you can see here, you are almost done. So the next thing you are going to do now is to consider this adjustment we are going to do next. Now at this area, if you measure this place and measure this line, you see that this area is 1/2 inch higher. So you are going to measure 1/2 inch like this. Okay, measure it down and then connect it smoothly into the armpit line like this, so that when you're sewing it in, it will balance well with the measurements. So the next thing we're going to do is to add in our seam allowances, as you can see, to the side seam and the bottom part of your corset. And I've cut this out like this. Then I'm going to cut the dart out and this area as well. So when I'm done with this, it should look like this. So next, I've labeled the cup like this, so that when I cut it out, it won't be confusing when putting things together. So I'm further going to cut this out after labeling it with my numbers. Now, after cutting out the bust cup, you are at your liberty now to know how to use this bust cup to sew it like this, or to make some manipulation or adjustments to fit whatever kind of effect you want to create at the bust cup of your corset. So in a while, I'm going to show you how I'm going to use mine. So now, after you must have determined the style you want to make it to look like, I'm going to mark 2 inches from the upper bust area down on each side of this bust cup to create the effect I wish to have. When you've marked this measurement, you should have something like this. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut through these lines I've marked right here. When you've cut this out, it should look something like this. And the next thing you're going to do now is to merge number 1 and number 2 side of the pattern with 1/2 inch, as if you've sewn it already. This 1/2 inch is equally the same measurements I'm going to use to merge the other princess seam together later. So when you're done merging it, you should have something like this, and our pattern is already created for the front piece of our corset. So we are going to go over to marking the back piece. Now for the back part of our corset, you are going to mark in the same indication lines as we have in the front. As you can see, right here, only that the length is shorter than the front piece. I'm leaving it at 21 inches, but you have the liberty to increase yours or decrease further. And I've added zip allowance. You can add half-inch zip allowance or 1-inch zip allowance depending on how convenient it will be for you to sew it. First, you're going to mark in the bust line, and you're going to be marking 1/4 of your bust circumference plus 1 inch for joining the back piece after cutting. Also take note that I'm not adding ease allowances to these measurements because I want the corset to be as tight fitting as possible. Now at the underbust line, you're going to measure 1/4 of your underbust circumference plus 1 inch for the dart and another 1 inch for joining the seam after cutting. I'm going to explain it further, okay? Assuming your measurement, the 1/4 of your waist measurement is 7.5, you're going to add 1 inch to the measurement for that and then 1 inch for joining the seam after cutting. And at the waistline, I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did for the underbust line on the waistline measurement. So here I'm going to mark in my measurement. Note that the full length of the back piece is the same with the side length of the front piece. So we're going to mark the same measurement, but I'm going to add ½ inch for the one that will go off while cutting off the dart and then 1 inch for joining the seam after cutting. So after marking this, I'll go ahead and connect my side seam together. Then I'm going to further adjust the back piece. Now the next thing you're going to determine is the depth of the back piece. Here I'm going to be marking mine at 11 inches, but if you want it higher, you can still leave it at 9 inches or you can take it down further. So you determine where you want the depth of your back piece to be and you're going to go ahead and mark it. Next, you're going to determine if you want to elongate from the center back of your corset. You can leave it at this point. You can equally shape it as much as you desire or even shorten it. So it's left for you to determine what to do, but I'm going to elongate mine by 1 inch as I'm going to mark it right now. So now we're done with this. The next thing to do is to mark in the dart line. Mark the dart line. You're going to mark 4 inches from the center back on each of these lines. After creating your dart line, you're just going to go ahead and mark in your dart measurement. You can ignore this first marking on this bust line area if you want a normal fitting corset, but if you want it tight fitting, you can go ahead and mark the ½ inch across these lines. Then you connect this together. If you don't want a tight corset, you can equally add back the 1 inch you remove from the dart to the side seam of your bust line. So you're just going to go ahead and connect these lines together. So once you are done doing that, you should have something like this, and then we're going to cut this out. But first of all, you're going to add your seam allowances at this bottom line and at the side seam also and connect it together. As you can see, I've added mine already, and the next thing I'm going to do is to cut this out, and our back piece pattern is almost ready. Then I'm going to cut off this dart line as a final touch to it. So after cutting this line, this is what I have. Then if you want to further make some adjustments to this area, you can mark in ½ inch on this area to create a fitting at the spine area of your corset. But remember that whatever you remove there while sewing, you're just going to add in that ½ inch for stitching it together. So I'm leaving mine like this, but if you need to adjust further, you can go ahead and do so. So this is our final pattern. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. I'll be putting a link on how to sew this below the description box of this video, or the first comment you're going to see on the comment section. Make sure you comment on this video. Let me know what you think about this tutorial. I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. Take care of yourself. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Bye.